an overview of what we will be going through this morning. I'm going to take you just through a couple of things to bear in mind as a holder of a testing facility approval, cover the material on test reports, and after that, Adam on compliance and compliance and enforcement. Okay, so a heads up on a couple of things and a reminder of a couple more from me for you as an approval holder. Testing facility approvals are valid for 5 years unless they're revoked earlier. And actually, the first of these approvals will expire in just over a year's time. But if you reapply in a timely manner and are subsequently granted a further road vehicle standards testing facility approval, your testing facility approval will retain the same number that you currently have. So that's just a heads up. So the next one, if you wish to test to a new ADR that's coming in or a new version of an existing ADR, and they are updated from time to time, you can apply to vary your existing approval, and you will need to do that if you want to do testing to them. So that is, you may need to add more capabilities, ADRs, or you may wish to remove some, or you may need to add other things like testing facility locations. Those would be the most common ones. And where an assessment is involved, we will assess against the criteria which are shown there. There is a fee to assess the variation, and you get the invitation to pay that fee following the assessment, which is a little bit different to other application types. But as the white box says there, if it's an administrative change only, such as contact details for a testing facility location, or otherwise if it does not include any assessment, such as like removal of capabilities or ADRs, there's no fee for such a variation. Okay, just a couple of reminders. So we have found a little bit of confusion regarding annual levies. Annual testing facility levies are applicable for the year ahead. And you are notified of this by Rover. I'm sure you've seen those. And there will be an invoice ready to pay that you can find in your Rover portal as the anniversary approaches, the anniversary of your approval approaches. So if you don't want to do testing anymore and you don't want to pay that levy, then you may apply to revoke your approval. Please do so before the anniversary of the approval, otherwise that levy, that $970, is payable. And the next reminder, your approval does have conditions, and you do have a responsibility as an approval holder to comply with all the conditions of the approval. So as a testing facility, these are important responsibilities. The conditions that apply to all testing facilities are shown on the right there. These conditions ensure that legislative requirements can be controlled. And if these conditions are not met, it is an offence against the RVS legislation and penalties may apply. So most of those, the headings there give you an indication of what they are, but 118, any test carried out must be appropriate for assessing the extent to which a vehicle or component complies with the standards. So there you go. I'm going to pass over to Umesh, who's going to take us through testing reports.
Thank you, Ross, and good morning, everyone, for joining in this seminar. I would like to cover essentially test reports, uh, that what should be included in the test reports, what does a good test report look like, and we receive test reports regularly through RFI process. I would also cover what the department is finding when we assess these test reports. And also, I would like to cover why we are finding these issues in some of the test reports that have been previously approved by the department. Next slide, please. So essentially, in a test report, I think for identification purposes, it should have a rover test facility approval number and name of approval holder. The test report should also have the date and location of test where the test has been done. It should also list the ADR and also the version number of the ADR, basically the standard uh, to which the test has been conducted. It should also list the equipment and also the status of equipment, calibration status of the equipment at the time of test. Um, it is also good to include the method of testing used and the procedure followed. And if there are any deviations from the procedure specified in the ADR, then those deviations should also be included in the test report, or any specific or adverse conditions under which the test was performed, which are different from ADR requirements, then those things are good to be including in the test reports. Next slide, please. It is also important to include the identification details of the vehicle or the component that has been tested. This is important in the sense that if the test needs to be repeated for some reason, then the identification of the vehicle or the variant that has been tested or the component by part number would identify the level of design of the vehicle or the component that has been tested. Uh, of course, the results of each test that are required as per ADR needs to be included. Also, I think the analysis of results, because some test results need analysis, needs to be included, and the report must accurately reflect the results of the testing and be sufficiently detailed so that the test could be repeated based on the information contained in the report. It is also important to sign the report and maybe the name of the person undertaking the test, who's authorizing the issue of the report. It's also good to include uncertainty of measurement or the error that is in the measuring equipment, in the sense that the test report should have net results after uncertainty of measurement has been taken into account. Next slide, please. So I think I've covered what is good to include in the test report. Now I will like to cover what are some of the things that we are finding in the test reports that we are receiving in the department. Most of these findings are related to the tests that have been previously conducted under the old legislation, and most of the tests that are being conducted now new under RVSA, those tests are okay. But some of these findings I've listed are related to the older tests that have been tested under the old legislation. So I think the first one is sometimes the results are submitted from testing facilities that are not approved under RVSA, because under RVSA, applicants for vehicle type approvals, component type approvals, and model reports must obtain test reports from an approved testing facility to demonstrate compliance with the applicable national road vehicle standards. The second thing I think I would like to cover is, again, I would like to use an example. So this is for an ADR 35, which is for commercial vehicle braking. Um, most of the vehicles have got many variants, and for brakes, there could be different unique braking variants. What we are finding is sometimes we get reports where all the unique braking variants are not tested, whereas although it's the manufacturer's responsibility to consider all relevant aspects and variables that could affect a vehicle's compliance with the applicable ADRs. Performing multiple tests on different unique variants might be necessary. We are especially finding this in second stage of manufacture space, where the first stage manufacturer might have done 4 tests to cover 4 different unique braking variants. But when we receive application from an SSM manufacturer to cover the same scope of the vehicle, they might have conducted only 1 test. So that is one of the findings. I thought I will mention it. The next thing I would like to cover is instances where the test procedures are not being followed or documented as per the ADR requirements. So I would like to give an example of like a FATE test. Again, this FATE test is a requirement under ADR 35, which is the commercial vehicle braking. The test is quite prescriptive and requires a vehicle manufacturer or testing facility to test at specific speeds depending on the vehicle category. And there are number of stops, and everything is quite defined. The purpose of this test is to represent when we are driving in hills and there are slopes. If the brakes get hot, then will the brakes perform after the brakes are hot? So we are finding that some of these prescriptive requirements that are in the ADR for the FATE test are not strictly followed. There might be some limitations of sites and things, but some of those requirements are exactly not followed. So I'll just want to give some examples. So for example, if an ADR requires 15 stops to be done, we are finding sometimes testing facilities have done 14 stops. Um, um, it is okay to use the worst case. So if you do 20 stops instead of 15 stops to make the brakes hot, then that's acceptable. So I would like to mention that in case where testing procedures are not being followed, please note them down in the test report, and give reasoning as to why you have deviated from the procedure listed in the ADR, and an explanation that why it is considered as a worst case would help the assessment process. Um, I would also like to mention that there are some test reports, the validity of the information in the report is questionable. Um, uh, as you know that sometimes in some ADR requirements, the weight of the vehicle is quite important. And that is especially relevant in braking test or occupant crash protection ADRs or noise ADRs. So generally the test reports would attach a weighbridge certificate to confirm that the testing vehicle weight at the time of the test. We are finding that some of those weighbridge certificates don't match the vehicle that is being tested. Also, the dates don't align with when the test was done. So I think it is important that there is a traceability and the vehicle models, the information that you provide match the vehicle model that is being tested. Can we please move on to the next slide? Again, I think I would like to mention a few other scenarios, what we are finding when we assess these test reports. I think the first one is that the equipment or the testing facility location does not match the ADR requirements. In some ADR requirements, the testing track requirements are clearly documented. Sometimes those requirements for the testing tracks are not met. Sometimes we also find that the equipment is noted in the report, but the status of calibration of the equipment at the time of test is not noted. So I think that makes it difficult to establish whether the equipment was in the state of calibration at the time of test or not. So I think it's good to include that. Sometimes we also find that the testing reports do not identify vehicle details to the extent that the test can be replicated. I think it is not possible to establish which variant of the vehicle model was tested, and how that is the worst case to cover the whole model of vehicle that is covered by the test report. Sometimes you find that the analysis of the data is not done correctly. I'd like to give an example of, say, for example, a child restraint test, where the test report would have the backup data and the graphs that show the load application and the time the load was held. Uh, but what we read from graph is different from what is reported in the test report. So I think it is important that the analysis of the data in the test report is accurate. And sometimes we also find that the ADR version number is not current. So I think those are the things we are finding in the test, some of the findings in the test report. Can we please move to the next slide? So I think I would like to cover in this that we are finding these things with test reports, and so what the department is doing about them. Um, I think what we do is that some of the common issues that we find, we generally document that and try to issue a guidance material to clarify the issues to the industry. So an example of this is that we had some issues with ADR 35 with the commercial vehicle braking, and we have collated the issues and clarified in a question and answer format what are the common issues and what are the likely answers for those questions. So I think it is important that if you're a testing facility, then maybe look at our department's website, and if there is additional guidance material provided related to testing facilities, then please look at that. That might be helpful. So I think we always get questions that why we are finding these things now when some of these test reports have been approved previously by the department under the old legislation. So I would like to clarify that the way the information is collected under RVSA is different. Um, Under MVSA, we had a summary of information form with validation. However, under RVSA, we collect limited information, but full test reports are requested to assess from limited participants. We used a risk-based process, and not all compliance information is assessed on every application. And the department assesses each application on its merits and if relevant to the vehicle scope. So these are the reasons that some of the test reports that were previously approved under MVSA, we are now finding things because under the old legislation, we had summary of information and some of the details of the ADR test procedures were not assessed previously, but are currently being assessed if a test report is requested from the applicant. I think that summarizes my presentation. I will now request Adam to continue with the presentation on compliance and enforcement side of things.
Excellent, thanks, Umesh. So my name's Adam Pascoe. I'm the Assistant Director of Investigations within Compliance and Enforcement. The Compliance and Enforcement team was established to monitor compliance with the new RVSA and, where necessary, commence appropriate enforcement action where alleged non-compliance was identified. We have published our Compliance and Enforcement Strategy 2023 to 2026, and this outlines how the department will conduct its compliance and enforcement strategies under the RVSA. The strategy informs the community and the automotive industry, regulated entities, and other regulatory agencies about the compliance enforcement priorities and focus areas over the next 3 years. So currently our focus areas are RAWs, AVVs, large VTA approval holders, high ATM manufacturers, and entities that continue to operate without relevant RVSA approvals. With that said, we also monitor industry compliance through proactive inspections of approval holders' premises and vehicles, and leveraging information obtained through targeted intelligence products. These intelligence products also help identify potential areas of compliance concerns within the industry. And additionally, reports of alleged non-compliance will assist and be investigated, and will assist in regulating the industry. Next slide. So we acknowledge there's various degrees of non-compliant behaviours in the industry. So depending on the particular behaviour, depends on how the department responds to that non-compliance behaviour. So there's 4 main categories when considering our response to non-compliance. So voluntary compliance, where someone, voluntarily rectifies non-compliant behaviour. Assisted compliance, you may need a bit of help getting there. Directed compliance, through generally the use of some sort of enforcement tool, and enforced compliance, which can relate, which relates to prosecution. Generally, the poorer the attitude towards compliance, the more likely we are likely to move that pyramid and apply a more severe enforcement response. Just to note, each enforcement response is not only limited to only being used within that enforcement category. There may be occasions where it is appropriate to apply an enforcement response where the regulated entity has been cooperative and demonstrated a good attitude towards compliance. So with the new RVS legislation, we've received some new powers. Now this includes the power to enter a premises, whether by consent or by warrant. We can ask questions and request information. We can seize items, issue penalty infringement notices, civil penalty orders, suspension or revocation of approvals, and we can refer matters to prosecution where needed. Where an allegation of non-compliance is reported or identified, the C&E team will undertake an investigation into the alleged non-compliant conduct and recommend an appropriate enforcement response. So what we look for, or areas of potential non-compliance. So as previously mentioned, approvals have conditions contained within them. So failure to adhere to one of those conditions can open up an approval holder to a contravention of the RVSA. Should be noted that a breach of a condition of approval can result, for example, in an infringement notice being issued, and currently an infringement notice is $16,500 per offence. Further, as previously advised, the department may suspend or revoke an approval. Another potential non-compliance is providing a false or misleading declaration in an application for an approval. So if an individual or company signs a declaration that is false or misleading, or provides false or misleading information to the department, the individual or may be exposed again to another enforcement response. So again, the department may issue an infringement, suspend or revoke approvals, or for serious non-compliance, refer to prosecution. Next slide. So the department has, the Rover portal lists approved testing facilities. Testing facilities may opt out of having their details published. Other guidance material is available, that has been referenced today, is available on our website.